So I'm really excited to introduce you to Gail Wetzler. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. We're up in Scotland just now, and Gail's over from California and treating 3 courses back to back for the Barral Institute. So thank you so much for sparing time in lunch break just to talk to us today. So first of all, for people that are watching, please can you just explain a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yes, I can. Well, I started out as a physical therapist and did traditional physical therapy for a number of years, and found myself being drawn into certain aspects of physical therapy, which is more related to soft tissues and muscles as to what cause joint and musculoskeletal problems. So I followed Dr. Janet Travell for a number of years, who is a developer of all the trigger points, and worked with fascia at a very early age, and found that fascia, as you studied it more, seemed to have a lot of the answers for us. And then I went on to work with the Institute of Physical Art, and I became an instructor for, it's a very advanced manual therapy group in the United States, led by Greg Johnson. And they studied the fascia and collagen and connective tissue more than any other classes that I went to. So I seemed to want to migrate to those that were forward thinkers in the relationship of fascia. And then as I was teaching for them, I was also involved with Dr. John Upledger and his work with Michigan State University, understanding about cranium, sacrum, and those problems, because I had a lot of people that would come in with TMJ, head, neck, and facial pain, and dentists in the area, oral surgeons in the area would start sending me more people because I seemed to know my way around the cranium, and so we resolved a lot of TMJ difficulties. From there, it went into understanding where Dr. Upledger was, and down in Florida, and he did advanced studies, that Jean Pierre was speaking at the same time in a conference that I was there speaking, and we met. And in the courses of the working through the body and finding deeper muscles in front of the spine, we'd always kind of go through the organs to get to that muscle. And I was always curious as to the importance of what might be in front of that muscle. So in all the great aspects that I've learned with manual therapy to treat for low back pain, that the psoas muscle became very involved. Along comes Dr. Jean Pierre Barral and discovers that the viscera seem to have another set of importance to the body, and wouldn't that be wonderful and curious to study that. So I met him in the late 80s and pretty much followed him as he came back to the United States to learn more and learn more. And in 1990, he asked me to become one of his instructors, and so I have been with him ever since, to study and learn and share with others as an instructor all about this work.
Amazing, incredible journey.
Yes.
And for the benefit of people watching, because often patients that hear about visceral manipulation, they get their first impression is that it might be quite invasive or uncomfortable. Just to explain a little bit about what the work's like and how gentle it can be. So.
You know, even Jean Pierre himself, being an osteopath, was finding that if we need to make a change in the body on the musculoskeletal system, maybe it needs to be with more assertiveness. And he experimented, and he took his own journey as to be able to find, if I work this organ and the fascia that connects to the musculoskeletal system, and I take it with more assertiveness, does it make a difference? And he would work that, and it would make people more sore or more aggravated in their soft tissues, maybe some inflammation, and he discovered that's not the way to go with visceral. The visceral have so much more internal intelligence, if you would, because they house the autonomic nervous system, some of the peripheral nerves, the lymphatic system, the vascular supply that goes through and gives nutrition and support to these structures. So he discovered, because they respond with neuroreflexive responses, that you can actually go into the organs and make changes with softer touch, more gentle touch, more specific, though, in an indirect fashion that affects where they insert into, that will affect the musculoskeletal system. So it was definitely for him too, by trial and error, as to the effect on the visceral organs via manual therapy, that it can be a gentle approach and be very effective.
I remember that being a real light bulb moment very early on in visceral training, just that they're called vital organs for a reason, and
Yes.
it's safer for your body to, as far as your body being able to function, to be in pain, to have back pain, than to compromise an organ in the body. So
Yes.
remember that as the restrictions coming from the front.
From the front of the spine.
Yeah, no, definitely. And do you find within your practice that there's particular organs that are commonly involved with various areas of back pain, or?
Yes, I do. In fact, in the 90s, I did a research project. It was a retroactive research project, and I had 98 of my patients that were diagnosed with low back pain. And so with the low back pain, that was not being able to help by other methods, physical therapy, chiropractic, etc. What the discovery was that if there was a little bit of a disc involvement or annular fiber or the psoas muscle or the multifidi or the back erector muscles, that the continuum as it goes into the thorax and the continuum as it goes into pelvis can't be argued with. There's a continuum there. And when I went to find that the lumbar region, say the L3, L4 region, was more involved with fixations on the vertebrae, I found the root of the mesentery, which is a connective tissue proper that goes to the small intestine. As it crosses from the left to the right side of the body, that houses that large of an organ, would be the most fixated. If it was a right SI problem, it was the cecum. If it was the left SI problem, it was the sigmoid, which also has an extra connective tissue support system that goes immediately and inserts itself in front of the left SI.
Amazing. So yeah, certainly real hope for people watching, that if they have chronic back problems or problems that haven't been resolved by other means, that certainly there's hope for.
There's hope.
Yeah, definitely. And visceral manipulation in itself is obviously not just about lower back pain. Is there, just as far as any other areas of the body that can really benefit from it, or problems that can benefit, that connect with with biomechanical problems as well?
Most of the study came with low back pain, and what were we seeing in an orthopedic world? So the studies more or less started with low back pain, and then they went to more cervical involvement as well. So those are the kind of chief areas that would come into us as physical therapy and orthopedic care. And so the challenge was to find out, if they're not resolving with typical traditional means, what was the anatomical relationship to other areas of the body that it would. So for instance, I'm just going to give you, I know we're on low back pain, but for the cervical complication that happens at C4, C5, and when there's excessive lordosis, so you find these poor postures, and we've worked with them in the musculoskeletal and worked with their spine and shoulders, that if it's not resolving, we deal with the mid-cervical fascias that connect underneath and in between and connect to the pericardium and the pleura. And they could have restrictions within those deeper fascias that don't allow, if they're adaptively shortened, they don't allow for the person to come up. So if they've had a history of any kind of pulmonary disorder, bronchial, pericardium surgeries, heart surgery, scar tissues, that could be their stents that are put in, that causes an adaptive shortening for the cervical region. And then to add to that, that has evolved with, I deal a lot with women's health, so low back pain went into women's health and the amount of surgeries that hold there, so the scar tissue that involves the organs and around the organs become restrictive, and so the pelvic organs can get involved with pelvic girdle dysfunction and low back pain.
Fantastic, thank you. So just thank you so much for just sparing some time to help to enlighten people about visceral manipulation and how beneficial it can be.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
Welcome.
So below the video we'll put more information about the Barral Institute, so if people want to find out more about the Institute and practitioners, then they can do so.
Yes,
so thank you very much.
You're welcome.